Hello, you're watching the Cloud Native Telco Summit, part of our year-round DSP Leaders coverage. I'm Guy Daniels, and in today's first panel discussion, we will be looking at platform engineering for telcos. One of the latest cloud native practices centers around internal developer platforms and the role of platform engineering. But what exactly does this entail, and how can it help reduce complexity and create a more efficient cloud native culture? More importantly, how can telcos benefit? Well, to answer these questions, I am pleased to say that joining us on the program today are Hasan, Jafri, who is VP of Platform Engineering at Telus; Bejoy Pankajakshan, who is EVP Chief Technology and Strategy Officer at Mavenir; Beth Cohen, SDN Product Strategies with Verizon; and Fatih, who is Chief Technologist Telco Partner Solutions at Red Hat. Hello everyone, it's really good to see you all. Thanks so much for taking part today. So first of all, fundamental question really, what is platform engineering? Is it the next stage of DevOps, and will it be necessary for successful cloud native development practices? Hasan, you're VP for platform engineering, so let's hear from you first.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. It's a pleasure. And let me, begin by saying platform engineering is an evolution of DevOps. DevOps was originally designed to create deployment pipelines and bring together, fostering some collaboration between development and operations teams and saying, hey, developers, you're accountable for operations. You built it, you must fix it. But that model hasn't scaled really well. It's moved everything forward, but it hasn't scaled as well. Platform engineering is an evolution and the next stage of that process. When it breaks down silos in a more native manner, it creates a broader spectrum of concerns beyond development and operations. It establishes building blocks, tools, best practices. It empowers developers and allows faster deployment processes with high reliability. And that's the key, with high reliability. So it's not, and the other aspect of it, it's not just about technology. It's changing the mindset and the ethos of the organization and bringing feature functionality release on equal footing with reliability changes and updates, so that you have high quality, high reliability built in everything that you do. Lastly, it's the linchpin to moving towards a well-designed cloud-native operating model. Organizations that move from on-prem, it's a different operating model, different financial model, different structure. As they move to cloud, that entire operating model has to be changed to really take advantage of cloud. Otherwise, your costs just go sky high and through the roof. Reliability goes down because people don't know how to use the cloud properly. So cloud, platform engineering allows that migration and that change management effort.
Great, thanks very much, Hasan. I'm delighted actually we are covering this area on this year's Cloud Native Telco Summit. Now I'm going to go around our other guests because I think we all want to comment on this one. So Bejoy, I'm going to come over to you first. What can you add to helping us understand what exactly platform engineering is and how it relates to telcos?
Thank you, and glad to be on the show. Let me speak from a vendor perspective, and I'll talk about it in the perspective of product development. So taking Mavenir's Open RAN CU development or a DU development. So typically what would have happened in the usual process is, as the developers are developing the DU code, they would have done a unit test, which means they only test the DU in isolation. But then to actually get the end-to-end system working, you pass from unit testing to a system test, which actually brings in other components of the end-to-end system. It can include a CU, it can include the radio unit itself, or even a end-to-end handset. And then we actually pass through a network platform engineering team, which does the end-to-end testing. That's been the process all along. Now, if we look at that in comparison to a platform engineering approach, would be a dedicated team, which brings in the negatives of platform engineering is the additional capex and cost that's involved with actually setting up a platform engineering principle. And that would mean setting up a platform engineering team that creates a dedicated environment that's got the underlying hardware, the operating system, be it Red Hat or VMware or others, with the operating system, the CAS layers, the PaaS layers, and then finally the DU image itself that can be tested by the DU developer. And they're setting up an environment where they have the CU, the packet core, and others emulated, or the real images. Now that setup is standalone, created by the platform engineering team, so that the team that's developing the DU can test their product against the end-to-end setup. That's the whole idea of platform engineering, as opposed to how you would, using normal processes, run it through an end-to-end system validation, which then has to be recreated every time. So this is a process that's being followed as we move from DevOps to platform engineering.
Great, thanks for that, and thanks for giving us the vendor perspective on this. Well, we'll hear from Fatih in a moment, but first of all, Beth, what can you add to how you see the role of platform engineering?
Well, I'll take it from the telco perspective, and in essence, I would say the platform engineering is fundamental to how telcos run, right? Because we are providing a service, and so therefore we must focus on providing a solid base to support that service. And I would argue that it's actually kind of going a little retro because CI/CD, that's been difficult to implement. So I think platform engineering is really taking a lot of principles that have been around for decades and really tightening them up, if you will. I mean, end-to-end testing, that's something we've been doing for forever. And I think it's just really just recognizing that all those processes that we've been developing to support our applications and support our networks need to be done in the cloud environment. I think people just kind of ignored that for a long time. And so now we're taking those tried and true best practices and applying them in the cloud environment. Platform engineering does have a gap, which is it's still not really addressing that application to infrastructure gap. I think that's where it really needs some more work. Tends to be different teams, tends to be people that don't necessarily have the same skills. And that's something I think that we need to work on.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Beth. And hopefully we can touch on the skills aspect and the teams aspect a little bit later in the discussion. But for now, let's go across to Fatih for your views.
So for me, platform engineering, yet another fashion term. But if you look at, if people saying, oh, the DevOps is dead, long live platform engineering, which is kind of not true, not 100% accurate to me, because DevOps is kind of hinting to the best practices, patterns, and the philosophy of improving the collaboration between the developers and the people who are deploying and maintaining those applications for business purposes. So if you take those best practices and culture, apply in a way that you want to lower the complexity of the technology so that these application developers can develop much faster, much easier, and they can ship easier with the tools and the platform built and maintained by platform engineering. So what I'm saying is platform engineering to me and most of the customers that I have been working is mainly building a technology infrastructure encompassing both on-prem as well as multiple clouds in a way that this technology can be consumed by your business stakeholders, i.e. application developers, in a consistent, uniform, and trustable way. So me as a platform engineer, lower the complexity so people come and use the platform that I have built with the tools inside, such as automation, CI/CD, security checks, lifecycle management, so that those jobs, this complexity will be hidden. So these people developing business applications will be much faster, much leaner. That's my take on this.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Fatih. And we'll end this question by just heading back to Hasan for some final comments from Hasan.
Yeah, it was nice to hear the different perspectives, the vendor side and my colleague from Verizon. One of the platform engineering is evolving, and the way we've approached platform engineering may be somewhat unique. We've integrated enterprise architecture, so we're looking at starting with design excellence. How do you turn enterprise architecture into code and bring it into the pipeline? And then we look at delivery excellence, the how things flow through the pipeline, the CI/CD process, etc. And then we get into the cloud development platform and setting up the environments in a very timely manner. And then operational excellence, which brings in the concepts of SRE. So how do you build in observability up front? Because as developers and application developers build across, set up applications, they leave out different things and they build on different standards. So how do you enable this all through code, standardization through code, enabling speed, governance through code as well, so you don't have to have forums and those type of things established, and then a real focus on developer experience, and that's called, in our terminology, it's called community enablement. So our motto is reduce toil and get SHIT done, and do it at speed, so that our developers are happy developers using our tool sets. So we've expanded our view of platform engineer to encompass all of those things, from enterprise architecture all the way to SRE.
Great, and we certainly need happy developers. Now, I was reading a recent Gartner report that seemed to indicate that platform engineering is going to involve like 80% of IT companies within a couple of years. Is this going to be true also for telcos? And if so, how is this going to impact skills and recruitment and ongoing operations? Beth, do you think the telco sector is going to follow along the similar trends to other enterprises and verticals?
I'm not sure it will. The telco industry is going through a lot of changes right now. And, for example, a lot of our applications are outsourced. We've outsourced our IT groups to third-party IT integrators. And that's not unique to Verizon. There's other telcos are doing that. And our operations is getting fragmented. And so, we still suffer from, we have lots of people with great skill sets in operating networks. We have great skill sets in designing and developing networks. We've never been great at the applications. And I don't see that changing, because that requires a fundamentally different view of how to approach things. And, we're very, very operationally focused. We're very focused on keeping the lights on and making sure that customers have an experience. The example I always use is people expect that when they use their phone, their cell phones now, that call will go through 100% of the time. And that's our mindset. That is how we think about building the platforms and building the systems that are needed to support that service, that level of service.
Great, thanks very much, Beth. Well, let me come across to Fatih for your perspective on this, from the vendor side.
So, from vendor side, as we are working a lot of customers and project deployments in the field, having the platform engineering being applied to customers and businesses matters. What's the size of their business? What's the size of their organizations? At the end, you will need to have people assigned to design, build, and maintain these platforms. You may not have that luxury if you're small, medium businesses. That's where the telco, in my humble view, is a perfect fit for applying the platform engineering because of a couple of factors and realities. One is telcos are highly big enterprises with multiple business units inside, as well as telcos are very diverse and very by means of geographies, as well as telcos have many application vendors that they buy software from and they deploy in harmony. Okay, that brings the SLA that the Beth was pointing. So having a platform engineering, maintaining a constant, reliable, trustable application platform or infrastructure as a platform, and then lowering that complexity from the ISVs, the vendors, and offering the same consistent deployment in every geography, every business unit is where I think the platform engineering is shining and will be shining for telco better than other industries, at least smaller industries at least. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Fatih. Well, look, I'm going to stay with you for a moment because I want to ask you also about the IDP, the internal developer platform, closely associated with platform engineering. What does this actually look like? What are its main components, and how does it impact this all-important life cycle of applications?
Let's take this question, have a break into smaller pieces for telco media entertainment. So in developer platforms, doesn't necessarily mean if somebody has to develop a code on that platform. They might develop a code, they might build a repo, and they may ship their software as an application or as a value to business through a CI/CD pipeline. And also landing on this platform where the other team take over the responsibility of the maturity, reliability, and trustability with the SLAs. But at the same time, this platform engineering group is also responsible for all the tools that these developers also use. Say developers may like to use repos. They like to use CI/CD pipeline. They might like to use image scanning for vulnerabilities. They might like to use, as Hasan was pointing, observability to see how their applications are performing. And out of that observability, creating a data to feed back to their development again. Maybe scaling autonomously, maybe just healing autonomously, so on and so forth. But at the same time, as I was hinting in my previous answer, telcos buy a lot of software too from other independent software houses. We have network equipment providers such as Ericsson, Nokia, and Mavenir. We have a beautiful friend here. So those vendors not necessarily developing right on the platform the telecom service provider is hosting or building. They are delivering through that, say, pipeline with the same, again, leveraging the CI/CD pipeline for image delivery in a way that is kind of scanned again. It's all the golden image signals are checked. What I'm hinting is software development plus software delivery through ISVs, through the instrumentation, the tool sets that's built and maintained by platform engineering are the key highlights as part of the developer experience or software delivery experience in per se.
Well, thanks very much, Fatih, for that. Very interesting. And we're going to get everyone's views on this now. Bejoy, I'm going to start with you and your views on these internal platforms.
So I'm going to take a step back because we got two operators on this panel with us. And one of the things that operators have challenged in 5G is how they're monetizing their network. So today, there's close to 1.3 billion mobile subscriptions in 5G. Users are actually consuming more data than they used in 4G. But the only monetization opportunities that's shown up so far is FWA as a real use case. Network slicing and others are still maybe some time out. Now, how do you extend this internal developer platform concept into something that could be monetized for an operator? And that's where services such as network as a slice, a network as a service, the whole NAS concept comes in. And increasingly, we've seen developers in the community come together along with the operators. We saw that at MWC earlier this year with the whole initiative on Open Gateway that was announced, which is the whole concept of how do you turn the network into an API and expose new services. And doing something like that, let's take services like voice, messaging, location, quality of service in 5G. How do you expose that through a platform which has got the right SDKs, the right APIs, the documentation, the developer environment that's friendly for the long tail? So doing all of that, and one of the aspects that Mavenir as a vendor we've looked at is how would you extend an internal developer platform into a monetization tool? Because ultimately, the consumers of that internal developer platform may be the internal test teams, it may be the internal R&D teams or the enterprise groups within the operator. But if you could turn it around and actually make it into a service offering, leveraging the same underlying platforms, but actually selling it as a service to make revenues to the operators, that's an idea that we've been floating with some of our customers.
That's interesting. Thanks very much for that insight, Bejoy. Beth, let's come across to you next.
As I mentioned earlier, generally we're not we're not applications developers particularly. That's not where we make our money. So we obviously rely on that whole ecosystem of developers. But we do find that, we need to incorporate them into our own systems and environments, which is where the platform engineering comes in. And we find that often that's a months long process to do what we call the certification process. And that would be great if it could be much shorter, because every time we get a new a new release from a developer, we have to kind of go back, and yes, we have a framework and we have a platform that we do all that testing in, but it still takes months to do, to complete the certification process. And it would be fabulous if we could cut that down and maybe work more closely with the developers, who are creating these applications.
No, indeed not. Thanks very much, Beth. And Hasan, let's come across to you as well.
The cloud development platform, or for us, is simplification of how you deploy things. So application development teams don't understand Kubernetes, don't know how to set it up. So what we do is do infrastructure as code to ensure that the build is done, it's done correctly. And then we, from a development perspective, we automate error codes, and if you need to do masking, or you need to do tokenization or encryption, what are the different tools you use, how you do it, it's all built in. So the development team can pick and choose, almost like a pick list, and build out the core capability that they really need to put their code on top of. And then as it goes through the pipeline, the code is checked for quality, for security, vulnerabilities, etc., before it goes into into a production environment. And then what we're in the process of doing is also automating the test cases, so that they're built as part of the process, so that it simplifies testing. Our goal, kind of where Beth was going with platform engineering, is that we should have releases daily, larger release packages every couple weeks, and new product deployment within 6 to 9 months. And we're moving down that path, and the business is seeing significant improvement in our ability to deliver faster, reduce costs driven through reuse of things, so that we are reducing the complexity and simplifying our environment. So in our view, platform engineering is really the way to go, and I think more and more telecom will start to adopt it. I know I come from the banking industry. I've been in telecom for 2 years. That industry has really adopted it. And I think Fatih made the point that larger enterprises, it is something worth adopting. And I've seen that coming from different industries.
Yeah, thanks very much. And a reminder, Cloud Native owes an awful lot to the financial industry for getting this far. Well, this leads nicely on to our next question, and that's how a platform team collaborates with all the other software engineers within a telco, from the more product-focused engineers, the SRE teams, DevOps, etc. Bejoy, there's many teams involved in our companies. How on earth does it all fit, and how do we effectively communicate?
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually a good question, because as we talked earlier about the evolution from DevOps to now this new concept on cloud nativeness of platform engineering, some of these principles on how we collaborate across teams are not changed. It's just an evolution, I would say. So take product engineers as an example, product managers, and how we would work with that team. First is, you cannot avoid the feedback loops that are required. You need to have constant meetings with these teams. There's going to be community effort, as was referred to earlier in the conversation. And of course, the last part of it is roadmap alignment, because the product teams would have a certain view on how the products would get launched, and that needs to align with the roadmaps the platform engineering teams are developing, so that the frameworks in which these products are tested are aligned from a timeline and go-to-market perspective. And when we look at the SREs and how we would interact with them, it brings in very specific focus on service level objectives, The other big part of it, which we did not discuss much, is the additional cost that's involved with doing a platform engineering aspect, especially from vendor perspective and operator perspective, where in the telco space, the number of products that are involved with actually bringing any service to the market is much higher than if you just look at an enterprise offering, which could just be a Microsoft Office offering, versus you having to have products in the core and RAN and the application space all work together. So the complexity of that means that you need to have a higher capex involved in setting all this up. So alignment and capacity planning as you're rolling out these new services, the service level objectives, and how you actually, when incidents happen, how do you respond to it, how you monitor, observe, and do fault alerting in this environment is going to be key. And finally, when it comes to actually the CI/CD integration and the DevOps part of this, a big part of it would go towards the sharing the automation tools that are built and actually making them familiar with these automation tools and scripts that are developed. There's, of course, a security angle to this, and especially as an operator that's bound by legal requirements around lawful intercept, the policies that go around it as the platform engineering development happens, that's going to be critical. And then finally, you have the whole infrastructure as a core principles that need to be followed, as well as the capacity planning that was applicable for the SRE that also becomes applicable as you're looking at your CI/CD pipelines as well.
Great, that's great information there. Thanks so much, Bejoy, for that. Fatih, let's come across to you for some additional insights here.
So only thing I would like to add in here is platform engineering teams or platform teams are mainly the bridge between the product-focused engineering to the SRE. And that bridge offers all the bells and whistles such as tools, dashboards, and other collaboration tools in the mentality of applying DevOps philosophy into their daily communication, daily collaboration, and creating an outcome together. So long story short, intelligent dashboards are where everything is shining through for offering collaboration as well as fast issue resolution, as well as autonomous operations for both platform teams as well as product engineers.
Thank you, Fatih. And Hasan, let's get some thoughts from you on collaboration here between the teams.
From our solution architects and our system architects who are building the diagrams and stuff through code, connecting it into the pipeline directly, and then we created a concept called starter kits, and the starter kits allow the development teams to get automatic integration into whatever platforms they need to stand up their environments. Our target is to get that environment stood up in a single day. We're well on a way. We've gotten 60% from the baseline that we established, so we're well on our way to that target. I think the additional component that's going to play in here is Gen AI, where we're implementing or underpinning all of this with Gen AI to automate and increase the additional agility and speed that comes from this end-to-end interconnectivity. Lastly, the whole process of connecting architecture to DevOps to SRE and everything in between is a cultural change. So we're doing it through tools, automation, but also how we collaborate by embedding SREs in and then applying a product model for all of the platform engineering tools that we're creating, so that we're treating them individually as products that have product managers that work with the business product lines, so that we integrate our releases, integrate the feature functionality that we're going to put out in the platforms that are required by the application development teams in a timely manner. So there's a collaboration going on, and we're using the concept of product management to help facilitate that, because that's the best practice in the industry.
Thank you, Hasan, and we've had some terrific insights in today's panel. But I have a final question, and that is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of adopting a platform engineering approach? And Fatih, if I could start by asking you, what's the advice to telcos looking to go down this route?
First, take a look at what your business looks like by means of applications and how it is consumed, where it is consumed, by whom, and who is maintaining those. The reason I'm telling this, let's assume it's a telco, it's a reasonable size organization, and they have repetitive recipes that apply in their geographies for their continuous businesses. So in that case, you can look at and see where you can lower the complexity for making abstraction and making sure that that abstraction recipe is applicable wherever it is you need to do, say multiple cloud, on-premise, and so on and so forth. That will bring you the agility and speed of scaling and reaching to the markets. Not only as a business, but also additional new services to come into a market will be much faster. Other thing is platform engineering will be incorporating technologies like Hasan was pointing, Gen AI or AI Ops, inside which it will offer better resource usages, better utilizations, better scalability. So that platform engineering will those have capabilities and capacities to be offering to those application developers as well as application maintainers in the field as SRE teams. So that is the thing. I think main value is to increase the speed to go market, lower the cost and complexity, and offer better return of investment for your applications and new business areas. I think the disadvantage will be, it's, as I said, you got to take a step back and look at what you're doing, i.e. there could be a case that you may see, oh, this is too complex. You might be kind of scared of it. Don't be. What you need is just calm down, have a cup of tea. And there's a concept in the US now, it's getting more popular, especially in the food industry, called ghost kitchen. Okay, so it's kind of similar. Ghost kitchen is mainly building the kitchen where multiple vendors come and use that infrastructure for just offering their services rather than they build their own kitchen from scratch up. So you may have you may love a particular Italian restaurant, and you may see on your DoorDash, oh, they start offering their food in here. How come I didn't see their restaurant? Well, actually, they don't have a restaurant. That's the value of ghost kitchen, i.e. platform engineering, offering the same consistent platform that you can cook your services and sell through with consistency and with better return of investment. Yes, it will need additional talent, such as how shall I package my applications, or shall I build a little bit more intelligence and experience around how to deliver my applications through platform team collaboration, i.e. hinting into more collaboration using the common tools and services and pipelines offered by platform team. I think those two drawbacks, complexity and talent, could be easily addressed if organizations are willing to talk to each other and kind of streamline their business targets as shareholders.
Thanks, Fatih. Nice culinary analogy there. Do like that one. And also, a quick plug. We have a panel on AI Ops in next month's AI Native Telco Summit, so do watch out for that. Beth, let's come across to you for some final thoughts and advice to telcos looking to go down this route.
Well, I will do a shout out to Hasan because I'm a product manager. So yes, product managers wear many hats and are required to know a lot of different people in the organization, and they do act as the glue. But Fatih brings up a good point, which is that the advantages are great if everybody's sort of on the same page. And I think the increased interest in APIs and user experience really is driving that, because traditionally telcos have been focused on, hey, we produce, we have great network, our packets are, get there when they should be, low latency, low jitter. You know what? Customers are looking for a much better experience. They want their applications to work. They want to get quick and easy insights into what's going on with their networks so they can make their applications work better. They want to have security components put in. All of this can be driven by that platform engineering concept. And I think that is happening, although I would say it's probably in the telco industry a little slower than I'd like. The adoption of public clouds has been slower than I think the public cloud vendors would like. But the disadvantage is that, you have to break out of your silo. You do need to talk to everybody else. You do need to talk to your operations people. You do need to talk to your applications developers. You do need to talk to your customers. And that's something that, is super important. Product managers are very definitely in the nexus of that, but many of the other teams are not. And so we do need to break down those silos and break down those barriers.
Great, thanks very much, Beth, and a nice reminder that it's all about the customer, isn't it? At the end of the day, Bejoy, let's come across to you for thoughts and advice to telcos.
I think the panel already spoke about the advantages that this brings in, which is around operational efficiency, the service agility, and of course the network agility that it brings. But just be mindful, this is, again, not something really new outside of the telco sector, because this has happened in the enterprise space. But where I would draw some caution is adopting this straight out for big blown projects that operators or telco vendors may have, because the complexity there is different from handling enterprise applications. There are benefits to it, but as I pointed out earlier as well, there's a cost involved with maintaining this platform engineering team. Eventually, the idea is that you get more benefits as the platform engineering really cuts down the cost of delivering the service, and you could get to really agile delivery of services. But before you do that, there's an initial investment that's needed, both in terms of CapEx, skill set augmentation, as well as recruitment of new folks who are familiar with the space. And that's not something to discount, because ultimately, if you go on this journey, you're having to make an investment, and the time frame to actually start realizing the benefits of that investment may be slightly longer term than what you would realize.
Thanks very much, Bejoy. Well, thank you, everyone, because we must leave it there. But I am sure we will continue this debate during our live Q&A show later. For now, though, thank you all for taking part in our discussion. And if you are watching this on day 3 of our Cloud Native Telco Summit, then please send us your questions and we'll hopefully answer them in our live Q&A show, which is coming up later. And don't forget to view the other panel discussions and keynote interviews in this year's summit. Here's the agenda for the rest of today. One more panel still to come before the Q&A show. And the full schedule of programs and speakers can be found on the TelecomTV website. Don't forget to take part in our poll, which you can also find on the website. For now, though, thanks for watching and goodbye.